Hello, my name is Chrissy Champagne. You are listening to Residue, a true crime podcast dedicated to keeping you paranoid. Thank you so much for coming back again this week to listen to me tell you another horrifically sad tale. I appreciate you all so much, and if you are enjoying the show, it would be so awesome if you could share it with your friends, share it on your social media, or even leave me a review if you would prefer to do that. Speaking of review, I do still have some stickers left. I was giving out stickers to anyone that left a 5-star review, sent out some thank you notes this past week, and that's an option for you too if you'd like some residue stickers. I know stickers are all the rage right now. But yes, let's get started. This is a horrifyingly sad story, and this takes place in upstate New York. Again, this is going to be in the town of Sodus, New York.
I need to hear their names. I need them. I need reminders of them. The beautiful them, not the ones we saw during the trial. My son laying under his fucking trunk dead. Amber bent over. Oh, why would he shoot her in the head like that? And her son was in the back seat. Why? What sick individual does that?
It was a fall day in the town of Sodus in upstate New York in October of 2018. The town of Sodus takes its name from the native word for the bay in the eastern part of town, Sodus, meaning silvery water. The town of Sodus is on the north border of the county, and it is midway between Rochester and Syracuse, New York. Now, it is October 22nd, 2018, and in this tiny little village town, it is the kind of town that everybody knows everybody. Neighbors look out for each other. Neighbors know your name. So it was a shocking day when a neighbor was looking out of her window, her kitchen window, and she noticed her neighbor, Josh Niles, talking to a man. Now, she says that Josh didn't look like he was worried or scared. He didn't look like he was in a confrontation. He just was talking to someone that this neighbor had never seen. This person was wearing jeans and a hoodie, and she said she didn't know who it was, which was odd in this, part of town. So she just goes about her day. She's playing with her child, and all of a sudden, she hears gunshots. At first, she hears one gunshot. She rushes to her window, looks outside, and she can see the gunman pointing the gun at Josh, and now Josh is now on the ground, and this all happens within seconds. As she's witnessing this, she sees Josh's girlfriend, Amber, in her vehicle pulling into the driveway to come home for the day. And then she sees the gunman turn on Amber. So the neighbor says that she can hear Josh scream Amber's name. And at that point, the gunman points the gun at Amber and shoots her once, then walks back to Josh, and now is going to let out 10 bullets into Josh's body as he is struggling to save himself. Joshua Niles, age 28, would be found dead in his driveway that day underneath his truck. His girlfriend, Amber Washburn, at age 24, would be found with one bullet to the side of her head as she was leaned over her dashboard in her car. And Josh and Amber's 4-year-old son, Joshua Jr., would still be alive, sitting in the back seat in his car seat. Josh Jr. was autistic and nonverbal, so he had no way to communicate what was going on. And in one of the Dateline episodes I watched on this case, They describe the moment as Josh Jr. was still sitting in his car seat holding his 4-piece chicken nuggets in his hand, just sitting there in a daze, not knowing what had just happened to his parents.
5:30, shots fired. Can we get an EMS code 3?
911 calls are pouring into the police station, and luckily, it just so happened that a police officer was only a few houses down from Josh and Amber's home, and he was actually at a home serving an eviction notice. So once he heard this call go out, he just ran down the street to help. The lead detective assigned to this case would be Robert Milby. He shut down schools. The Sodus Central City School District was immediately shut down. Canines were brought in on the search, and cops were just running around the neighborhood checking everyone's home. And neighbors wanted their homes checked. Neighbors were like, yo, come over here. I don't know what's in my shed right now. Because they knew one thing, that the shooter took off on foot, just running. He jumped a fence, or she jumped a fence and ran through backyards. So the dogs are picking up some scents, and they do come across a ski mask in, is it Under Armour ski mask? And one of the detectives did say that this is a pretty expensive ski mask. This isn't like a Dollar Tree ski mask. This is about a $40 to $50 mask. So they knew, you know what, nobody would just leave this behind and not pick it up. It has to be our guy. So they pick up the mask, and the dogs actually lead them to an empty garage. So this is where the trail ends. So now they're thinking, you know what, whoever this was got into a vehicle and took off. We don't have any leads right now. The detectives start speaking to Josh and Amber's family members, and they're trying to put together a picture of what these two were like. Did they have any enemies? Did they have any confrontations with someone lately? And they start putting together a story about the past of Joshua. So Joshua Niles was born in 1990, and he had a huge family. There were 5 in the household. He had older brothers and sisters. He had a sister named Nicole Gunkel, who says that the family always had friends over to their house, and their house was always packed with kids, and their parents loved this. They loved being the house that all the kids go to. And they did say that Josh always helped his family out. Josh was the one in the family that was like, you need something done? I'll help you. I'm there for you guys. He was very overprotective, and he adored his family. Josh was about 17 years old when he was in high school, and he met a girl in town named Charlene. Now, Charlene's name at the time was Charlene Charlie Albert, and she was only 15 years old when she started dating Josh. She and Josh, they fell in love. They were lovebirds in high school. And I'm not quite sure about what Charlene's background was like at home. I don't think she had a very happy home life, because at age 15, she ended up moving in with Josh's family. I mean, this family's household was already full enough. And Joshua's mother, Barbara, was so sweet and loving and caring, and just like that kind of mom that everyone in the neighborhood calls mom. So of course she let Charlene stay at their home. Now these two are dating for about a year. Josh is 17, Charlene is 15. A year later, Charlene gets pregnant. And this is when Charlene would be pregnant at age 16 with their first daughter, who they would name Gabby. Now, these two are so stoked to be parents, even though they're teenagers still. They're just so happy about this pregnancy. And by all accounts, Charlene was an amazing mother, and Josh was a fantastic father. So these two are loving life. And 2 years after they had their first daughter, Gabby, they have a son, and he is named Bentley. Now, these two are ecstatic to be parents to Bentley and Gabby, but being so young, this is going to, kind of mess with their relationship a little bit. They're teenagers still. They have these 2 children to take care of, but they haven't really explored other options yet. So by 2012, Charlene and Josh are going to separate. And Charlene's family is going to move out of Sodus, New York, and they're going to move to Texas. And Charlene decides that she's going to go with them. So Josh and Charlene end their teenage romance, and they decide that they're going to co-parent, and they come up with a pretty great schedule for their situation. For being so young, they were able to navigate their co-parenting situation being in New York and Texas. So every other Christmas, Josh was going to get the kids in New York. Charlene would drive up after the visit was over, and then she would bring them home to Texas. And then Josh would get the kids every single summer. So Charlene would drive up from Texas and bring them back home at that point also. Everything is going great co-parenting wise. Everything's fine, and then it's 2014 and love is in the air again for both Charlene and Josh, but with 2 different people. So Charlene is going to meet a man named Jace Childers, and she is going to marry him, and they're going to have a child. That same year, Josh is going to meet 18-year-old Amber Washburn, and they're going to start a relationship. They met through some friends, and everyone that Josh knew said that this was a wonderful relationship. They said that Josh told them, "I've never met anybody like her." And it was the same for Amber. It was like Amber and Josh were made for each other. They were soulmates. The thing was that even though everyone loved Charlene and they loved that she was a part of the family because she was the mother of the babies of Gabby and Bentley, her and Josh did not have a good relationship. And even Josh's mom, Barbara, was like, their relationship was horrid. We didn't agree with them being together, especially so young, but they still loved Charlene. But now they meet Amber, and the whole family is just in love with Amber. Amber is the sweetest, the kindest. Josh is not ever upset when he is with her. There is no fighting. There is no violence. So in the relationship with Charlene, even though some of the incidents were minor, there were some reports that said that the cops were called a few times to the home while Charlene and Josh would get into fights. Amber's sister, Angeline, and Amber's mom, Marcia, both say that they loved Josh so much and couldn't be happier that their daughter and their sister were happy with this man. Josh was, like everyone said, very helpful. And so as time goes on, Josh and Amber decide to move in together with each other. They also decide to buy their first home, and this is also when they find out that Amber is pregnant. Josh is working as a landscaper, and he had aspirations to open his own business one day. Amber is working as a baker during the night shift, and the 2 of them are just really happy to start their family, start their own business, and have a little happy home. Meanwhile, in Texas, Charlene is not having the same fairy tale romance that Josh is having. Jace Childers actually spoke with the show Snapped, Killer Couples. He said that things moved pretty fast when he first met Charlene. They only knew each other for a month when she got pregnant, and now it becomes a bigger family and everything's moving quick. She's pregnant with Jace's child, but they also have her 2 children from her previous relationship with Josh. And it's at this point that Charlene, instead of, trying to make things a little easier on everyone, she decides to make things harder. So what does she do? She starts having an affair on Jace with a man that worked at the police department. His name was Timothy Dean. Charlene worked for the Dumas Animal Control, and this was a part of the police department, so she did actually meet Tim through work. And Tim was also married at this point. So Charlene being married, Tim being married, they decide this is a wonderful time to have an affair. On January 29th, 2018, Jace and Charlene are finally divorced, and it is that same year that Charlene marries Tim Dean. So they're married by March 10th, 2018. This woman just got divorced on January 29th, 2018. She was already remarried by March 10th, 2018. I'm just giving you a little insight into the way Charlene works if you're picking up my drift. Charlene was constantly posting on Facebook nonstop about her amazing love life, her amazing relationship. Oh my goodness, her and Tim are couple of the year. Nothing is better than her life. Life is grand, and everyone should be jealous of me, is the typical way that Charlene would post. Speaking of post, now, this is where the story is going to take a little turn, and I've contemplated whether or not I should share this recording with you. I'm going to share it, and I'm going to give you a trigger warning for this part because this is child abuse, and there is a video with audio that I wanted to play for you because I wanted to give you a little bit more info on the type of person that Tim was. First, I will tell you, Timothy Dean was one of the highest ranks you can be in his police department, but he was only the superior to 2 other people. So, as a podcast I listened to said, this might sound like it's a great position and Tim is this amazing, like, sheriff's deputy police officer man, but he really wasn't. Everything in this town was small. There weren't that many people, so he wasn't really in control of that many people. Another officer that worked with him at the department said, and I quote, Tim had a little man complex. I got these 2 pieces of information from a podcast called That Chapter Podcast. It's episode 18. I love the host, by the way. You need to check out that podcast. It's fantastic. And then I saw something on democratandchronicle.com. It was a short video outlining this story, and it was called What Dateline Didn't Tell You. It is fantastic, and I wanted to share with you some of the audio from that 10-minute episode. So the reason that things start getting really difficult for Charlene and Tim is because Charlene takes a video one night during dinner at their home with their children, and this is a video of Tim screaming in his 3-year-old daughter's face and telling her that she must eat her dinner, and he slaps her right across the face. And Charlene shares this video on Facebook. I don't know why she would share that, other than she wanted him to get in trouble. I mean, it's pretty awful. So here is the trigger warning. I am going to play the audio from the video off of her cell phone that Charlene took of the night that Tim slapped his 3-year-old daughter across the face.
Fucking cursing and shut the fuck up!
Skylar.
I'm gonna snatch you up by your goddamn hair. Eat your fucking food. I don't want to hear any huffing and puffing. I want to hear fucking yes, sir. Now eat!
I just stopped it. I'm not going to play any more of that audio. I'm going to stop it right there. It is worse than that. It's something that I cannot even believe Charlene uploaded to Facebook. I cannot believe that she didn't right then and there take her kids and get the fuck out of that house, because fuck this guy. Fuck him. Thankfully, everyone that sees this video on Facebook immediately contacts the police, and Child Protective Services gets involved really quickly. Josh is now going to have to go pick up his kids for his annual summertime visit because he is informed by the police that Charlene has now lost custody of her 2 children with Josh. She loses custody of her own children because she is living in the home with a psychopath named Timothy Dean. The police department's going to fire Tim from his position. He is now going to have to get a job as a truck driver delivering, I believe it is Frito-Lay products. So now this man has lost his job. He has lost custody of his children. He has to give his children back to his ex-wife, and now he's about to lose Charlene, because the minute Charlene finds out that the courts have given Josh temporary custody, full temporary custody of both children, Charlene is going to lose her mind. This is what's going to drive her crazy. She wants her kids, and the only way that she can get her kids is if she divorces Tim. So she decides that her and Tim are going to have to get divorced because all of her energy now is going to go into getting her children back. Charlene is going to come back to New York numerous times to go to court to try to win her kids back, but it wasn't going to work. That August, Josh actually petitioned the court for permanent custody, and the court was leaning towards Josh's side. Charlene is a mess, Tim is a mess, and one night Tim decides to go out for a drive, and he ends up crashing the car that he is driving. Here is a little bit of the body cam audio footage from a police officer that comes across Tim one night on the side of the road in Kansas.
Where are you going?
Honestly, man, I was just driving. My whole life has kind of gone to shit lately. More or less living out of my car.
So you're just driving around Kansas from Texas, huh?
Yeah.
So where are you going to go?
Well, I've got a family friend that I was gonna go see, but
422.
Where's that at?
that's all the way up in New York.
Jesus. How many days off do you have?
Oh, it's doable. It's about a 24-hour drive. I'll be back Monday.
So, just to recap, Tim is traveling from Texas to New York to see an old friend. And he fell into a ditch. And now this officer has this whole interaction on camera. His name was Deputy Nicolette. And he also thought that something seemed pretty weird about Tim. He thought something was off. So he made a fact to chat with the other officer who came onto the scene. He also made sure to follow up on this because he thought that something was pretty off about Timothy Dean. And he especially thought it because when he asked for license and registration, the registration for the rental car did not have Timothy Dean's name on it. The deputy finds out that Tim's best friend, Braun Bowler, is the one who rented this rental car for him. And not only that, but the cop also finds inside of the car a shotgun, and Tim admits to having a sidearm. He also finds an AR-15, he finds ammo and body armor. And now the deputy is like, yo, you are on my radar. The police soon find out that Tim, this man who has crashed his car, actually went to a body shop, and they go to that body shop and they find the owners and the mechanics, and they tell the police that, you know what, we might have video of this man in the store because he came here wanting us to help him out because he had damaged this car. So the mechanics tell the police that even they felt something was really off about this man. Now the police are tracking down the movements of Tim to figure out what happened after he left the body shop. And what they find out is that he took an Uber to an enterprise rental car company and he wanted to rent a car. But he walked in and he had no credit card. So the cashier would not rent to him because this was one of their rules. You must have a credit card. This whole interaction was 30 hours before Josh and Amber were killed. So now Deputy Nicolette is going to rewatch this body cam footage again. And in it, as we heard, Tim will admit that he is on his way to New York to see an old friend. So Tim is obviously now going to be taken in for questioning, and he will stick to his story. He is not going to change his story. But when the cops find out that Tim is actually married to the woman who used to be married to the man who was just shot, they're not letting go. But Tim's not going to let go either. He's going to stick to the story. He's going to switch it up a little bit. Now he's going to tell the police during his interrogation that he wasn't going to New York to see an old friend. What he was really doing was he was going to New York to kill himself. He is asked about his friend, Braun Bowler, who helped him rent the car. Now, Braun Bowler was also a police officer at the Sunray Police Department in Texas. He worked 11 years as a cop, and he was Tim's best friend. So the police obviously have to get Braun to come in because his name was on the registration. They do bring him in, and I'm going to tell you, Braun, for everything else he did wrong, he at least knew right away he is not gonna talk to the cops. He's a cop. He should know. I mean, that's what confuses me about Tim. Tim was supposedly a cop. I mean, granted, he wasn't really working for a really huge police department, but you would think like just the minor details like don't talk to the cops without a lawyer there should really ring true for a cop. It's like, you don't con a cop, guy. And Braun doesn't. He's like, I'm caught. Okay, here's the real story. So Braun actually tells them the whole story. He tells them that Tim told him he was going to go to New York to kill Josh and Amber. And now the plan was going to be that Tim was going to rent a car, and that all got foiled, so that's why Braun had to help. But in Tim's garage, they would plan this murder. Sometimes Braun was even on the clock and working as a police officer, and he would drive his vehicle to Tim's house and just like hang out with him in his garage and come up with this plan. And you know what else he said? He said Charlene was the entire mastermind of this whole thing. Brilliant, brilliant plan, Charlene. And, you know, how'd you get two police officers to help you with this ridiculous plan? There were so many points in this entire thing where everyone could have just shut it down. I mean, Tim went into a ditch. He spoke to a real life police officer. He was on body cam footage. He was being videotaped, and he still left that scene and drove to New York and did what he did. I mean, everyone looks at the ex or the spouse or the husband or wife or whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend first. You are in the middle of a custody battle. Your girlfriend is in the middle of a custody battle because of you being like investigated by Child Protective Services. So your thought is, you know what? Let's just go kill that guy. Let's go kill him. That will definitely solve all of our problems, and we can go back to living our horribly unhappy life that we fake on Facebook. So maybe this is another reason why Tim got fired from the police department, because he fucking sucks. Have you ever once watched a Dateline, Tim, at all? And I don't think Charlene has either, because Charlene is one of those women who thinks that everyone's going to believe anything that comes out of her little narcissistic, manipulative, victim-playing mouth. And she fucked up this time, because this ain't going to fly this time. Here's why. So Charlene starts telling the police that she did nothing. She doesn't know anything. She's telling them in the interrogation, why would I ever do something to my children's father? He's their father. I would never do that. It's just so gross. She's so disgusting. And then the police are like, okay, we got you. We know what's going on. Charlene tells them a story. She tells them that when Tim called her, so Tim calls her and he tells her, I can't rent this car. I forgot my credit card. So this is going back to the moment where he went into Enterprise and he couldn't get the rental. Charlene actually drove from her house in Texas to him in Kansas to help him get a rental car. And then she went back home. The police were like, why were you driving him? Like, did you ask him why he needed a rental car? And her response was, and I quote, no, I don't ask questions. I don't care. You know what, Charlene? Shut up. I don't ask questions. I don't care. Oh, you don't ask questions when you pick your ex-child abusing husband up in a car and he says he needs help renting a rental car so he can go to New York where you used to live, where your ex-husband lives, where your children live. And you weren't going to be like, I wonder why you're going there, Tim. It's just so stupid. Just another thing that just makes me laugh about these types of people. Your typical back and forth in the interrogation room is going to go on now between Charlene and the police officers, and she's finally going to break down, and she is going to tell them, you know what, I did it, I admit it, I thought Josh had to go. Josh had to go so that I could get my kids back. She said to the police officers, my kids are my life. And that statement made me want to punch my TV when I was watching this, because do you think that Josh and Amber's kids weren't their lives? Do you think that you're the only person in this situation? Do you think that Josh wasn't his mother's life? Do you think that Amber wasn't her mother's life? Do you think that their sisters and brothers were like, you know what, it's all cool as long as Charlene gets what she wants? Not this time, Charlene. Murder charges are going to be filed against Charlene immediately. She is arrested in New York, and she's arrested based on a warrant from Texas, and this is at 1 a.m. Nicole, Josh's sister, is going to come and get the kids, Gabby and Bentley. In Dumas, Texas, police are now surrounding Tim Dean's home, and he is going to deny. But based on only that admission on that body cam that he was on his way to New York, they are going to be able to arrest Tim now. So the evidence against Tim is pretty outstanding at this point. Not only do they have the neighbor who witnessed everything go on and then actually did identify Tim as the shooter in a lineup, they also have that ski mask that they found earlier in the story when the shooter was running away. That ski mask actually did have Tim's DNA on it. So his case, they know they got him. The only thing that isn't really that strong is the case against Charlene. They know that Charlene definitely planned this, but they couldn't make the connection. In April of 2019, Charlene's attorney is going to ask if she could receive a benefit from cooperating. Even while saying that she's going to cooperate, she still keeps deflecting the blame. She still thinks she's the world's greatest actress and she can fool these detectives somehow. And it takes a little bit, but finally she is going to admit that yes, she did discuss this murder. She admits that she wanted Josh dead, and then she describes in detail how the murder happened. So what she tells detectives is that after that day in family court, she was just devastated because Tim was not with her and because Josh was about to win full custody of her children. So she calls Tim and he agrees to fly to New York and help fly home with Charlene because she's so upset she's not going to be able to make it on a plane ride all the way back to Texas. She says that she told Tim the entire plane ride, because remember, she doesn't talk in car rides. I forgot about that. She doesn't ask questions in car rides. That Josh always badmouthed her. Josh was mean to her. The only way out of this situation now was just to kill Josh. Tim actually arrived early in Josh and Amber's neighborhood the day of the shooting. Charlene tells the detectives that Tim walked around the neighborhood for a while and waited for Josh to come home, just pointing out that there's another chance right there for Tim to exit this plan, but he didn't. So Josh arrives home, he's standing outside by his truck, and Tim walks up to him, starts to talk to him about the custody battle, pulls his gun out to shoot Josh. And it is at that moment that Amber pulls into the driveway. Josh screams for Amber, and Amber tries to pull out as quick as she can, but that is when Tim shot Amber one time. He turns around and then lets out 10 bullets into Josh and then takes off. Charlene tells them everything, and she ends up pleading to manslaughter in the first degree. Along with that plea, she will now become the star witness in Tim's trial. She will say that she did not ever say that she wanted Amber to die. She will say over and over that Amber was not part of the plan. Amber was an amazing mother, that Amber came home at the wrong time, and that she was very upset with Tim for doing that. During Tim's trial, Tim was just a stoic monster. He didn't show one bit of emotion, nothing. And according to Josh's mother, Barbara, she says that every day that Charlene would walk in as the star witness, she would walk into that courtroom smiling. And on an episode of Snapped, Josh's mother, Barbara, would say, quote, "I just wanted to knock her teeth right out of her mouth." I would have said the same thing, Barbara. Charlene would end up getting 28 years in prison. Tim would be convicted on all 8 counts, including murder in the first degree. He was guilty, and he would spend his life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Your Honor, now Angie, the sister of Amber Washburn, will be coming up to speak. He did the bidding of his wife, Charlene Childers, without a second thought. He drove up to Sodus, New York, with one thing on his mind: to murder Josh Niles. He couldn't let anything or anyone stand in his way. He shot my sister because she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. She saw his face and had to die. Had Amber's car still been idling next to Timothy Dean, he may very well have shot my nephew too, just because he was there. Timothy Dean, a disgraced police officer, a man who once swore to uphold the law, now a murderer. A man who did the bidding of his adulterous wife, Charlene Childers. He didn't come up with a plan to murder Josh Niles on his own. No, he was a puppet of Charlene Childers, a marionette under the spell of a sociopath. Your Honor, I urge you never to allow this man to be free from prison so that he can't harm anyone else. Enough lives have been ruined already. Please don't give him the opportunity to harm anymore.
Thank you. Today, you are certainly a classic psychopath. You've never shown one bit of emotion in this courtroom, not once of guilt or remorse. I really wonder what goes on in your head. If you have any sense of a conscience, you have to be haunted by what you've done. It's appropriate that you receive a life sentence, for you have given the Niles and Washburn families a life sentence. Rise, Mr. Dean, for sentencing. Regarding count 1, indicted 18108, murder in the first degree regarding Joshua Niles and Amber Washburn, a sentence to life imprisonment without parole. Defendant can be taken away.
Charlene Childers would say, 2018 was supposed to be the best year of my life, and it ended up being the worst year of my life. What I did wrong, and I regret every single day. I realize saying I'm sorry are just words. Saying sorry doesn't bring them back. My selfishness ruined my children's lives. Gabby and Bentley are in the custody of Josh's sister, Nicole. She says that the kids do not want to see their mother, and that the day that those children had to find out that their mother was responsible for their father's death was worse than the day that they found out that their father had died. Joshua Jr. lives with Amber's parents. The biggest tragedy in all of this is that all of those children were left behind. County Judge Daniel Barrett said that he has handled a number of murder cases over the years, but this was the most senseless and tragic he has ever seen. And I agree with what he said at the end of Tim's sentencing. You deserve a life sentence because you gave a life sentence to the Niles and the Washburns. Thank you so much for joining me again this week on Residue. I hope to see you back here again next Tuesday. And until then, I hope you all stay safe and stay paranoid.